Hey there! So this is going to be a walkthrough of all the costume pieces that make up my Jester Lavorre cosplay. And I'm actually wearing regular face paint today because the stuff that I used for Renfest, which I wore outside for like 6 hours, cost me $10 for a tiny little pot, and I didn't want to use it for just a video if I didn't need it to be like absolutely sweat-proof. Okay, so the first layer of this costume does not include these shorts or this bra, but this top is see-through and so are these leggings, so needed some modesty. But basically the top is a nude mesh top that I bought on Amazon. The pants were an off-white, and the upper length gloves were also like regular tan color, and I custom dyed everything with Ritz synthetic fabric dye, the Dye More, in the shade Sapphire, which I thought was appropriate for Jester. And my gloves, I decided to go with the nylon gloves instead of arm socks, and they're actually opera length, so they don't go all the way at my arm, which means I can take them off if I need to wash my hands or if I want to eat food or something and I don't want to, take my whole costume off. And I just dyed them and then glued on fake nails, and I just watched some videos from drag queens because I see them doing the nylon glove nails all the time, so they know what they're doing, so I just took advice from them. After this first blue layer, we will get into the actual costume pieces. Okay, so the first layer of the costume after the blue layer is this white dress that I only wore once, and then after that it sat in my closet, so I decided this was a perfect use for it. But it was white, and I took it and I bunched up the sleeves so that it had the bell shape that Jester has. Different shirt, but the idea and the silhouette was the same, so I thought it would work. Then I added these pink details here and on the sleeves here, and I bought this beautiful trim and I sewed it on because I thought it was very extra and lavish chateau. And so this will actually end up just being the blouse of the dress. I don't like the fit in my midsection, so I'm just going to cover it with something else. The second part of the costume is this green skirt that I actually made for St. Patrick's Day last year, I believe, and I ended up completely hand sewing it because I did it in the car and I didn't have a sewing machine, so it's completely handmade. And I really like the color, and I thought it worked well for the traveler. Also, I don't normally put these gloves on before I get dressed. Having them on is making this so much harder, but my hands would be distracting if they weren't blue. So the next part of this costume is this corset, which I reused from when I cosplayed Keyleth last year. I like the shape that it gives the whole outfit. And then on top of the corset, I have this belt, which I added the purple and red ribbon to. It was already woven like this. And my handmade traveler symbol, which I baked out of clay. I have that just attached to the belt on a ribbon. And then the last part of the costume before my wig and horns and teeth and my boots are these lace gloves, which I originally got because Jester wears gloves in most of the fan art, also because they cover the seam between my arm socks and the sleeves of my top. Also, I should note that I could just wear arm sleeves, but I got the top so that I wouldn't have to get paint on any of the costumes I ever wear for Jester. I'm okay with getting paint on the collar of this blue shirt, but I didn't want to have to deal with body paint on my chest and then it getting on every single thing that I'm wearing. So I just figured getting a turtleneck would solve the problem of excessive body paint and trying to get it out of clothing. So the next part of this costume is my Ruby of the Sea necklace, which is just a charm I bought at Michael's, and then I put it on a velvet choker that I already had, and it kind of works the same way as the gloves, where it kind of covers the seam between my shirt and my neck because I know you can see it, but I might as well try to cover it with something and make a clear differentiation as opposed to like 2 different shades of blue. It's like, oh, there's just a necklace there. And then my wig, which I styled myself. However, I do cut my own hair, and this is typically how I cut it, so it wasn't too difficult to do, and I do have the little bun. Well, it's a ponytail, but I do have the back styled, and it did come with the waves in it. I just made it a little bit shorter and cut the bangs because they were much, much too long. The next thing are my ears, which are these little silicone elf ears. I've used them for Keyleth before, but I just bought another pair and painted them blue with the same like Stay All Day face paint that I used when I went to Renfest, and they just hook around your ears like so, and they stay all day. And then my horns. So these babies I did make myself. I made them out of strips of poster board that I cut into like concentric rings and then glued them all together into this horn shape, and then paper mache'd them with glue and Mod Podge, so they're like really hard. And then I just made little silver caps for the horns and glued them onto a headband. It took a lot of actually trial and error to get them positioned correctly on my head. So it just, and normally I would style my hair over the horns, but for the purposes of this video, it's okay. So they just slide on my head like that, and they stay really well. They don't go anywhere, so that's not a problem. And then the very, very last thing, and I think something that like makes this costume, my fangs. And these ones I actually sculpted myself out of like a thermoplastic. So it's a plastic, they're little pellets that you drop into hot water and they soften and become malleable. And basically I made them how you'd make like dentures, so I don't have to glue them in. So they just kind of clip over my canines since that's what they were molded over. And they actually started out white because the Instamorph plastic is a white plastic, but since I don't have white teeth, I actually just soaked them in a cup of coffee, and it helped to make them match my teeth because I too am a coffee drinker. So my natural teeth are stained with coffee, so I just stained my fake ones, and now they're the same color. So this is Jester's bag of holding, and it was just a small backpack, kind of one of those big purses. So I just did a layer of white paint and then pink paint, and then I covered it in a layer of glitter paint, which I don't know if you can see it, but in the sunshine it is ridiculous. And then I also made this little unicorn keychain stuffy because I thought it was appropriate for Jester. And I also bought this peacock keychain in honor of Molly Mock, because I figured Jester would probably have something to remember him by. And this is fully functional. I used it at Renfest and it was amazing because I could fit like so much stuff in it. Like I was the mom of the trip for sure. Oh my god, I almost forgot. Last thing, which I keep forgetting about. I almost didn't make it. Jester's tail. So this was fun. I've seen a lot of videos. I literally checked YouTube for like every video of a tail that I could find. There were some good ones and there were not so good ones, and there were ones that had like full articulation, but I was trying to find something that was going to just be like smooth and streamlined, because that's kind of what Jester's tail looks like in all of the fan art, and I didn't want it to be like segmented, and I couldn't cover it in fur. So what I ended up doing was buying this, which I think is like insulation pipe. Like at Home Depot when I went in, there was a picture of it covering like copper pipe. So it's like insulation pool noodle, and it was kind of the right diameter for her tail, so it was like sweet, and it was like $1, so I bought it. But then I was trying to figure out how to keep it in this curled position. Like it curls right before it hits the ground, so it is in a very natural position for someone with a tail. And basically what I did was I cut little slivers out of the top of it and folded it up and hot glued those so that it stayed in this curve. And then after that, since I knew I wasn't going to be able to paint that, I actually had a pair of tights that I had dyed originally for Jester that went horribly wrong and came out gray and terrible. So what I did was I just stretched a pantyhose over the tail, and it gave it this like really smooth finish that I was actually able to spray paint to match the rest of the blue. And then before I spray painted it, I just made like a tail tip and some spikes for the top just to cover the seam, because I did have to take in the pantyhose a little bit. So I just added some spikes, and I did have a seam in the pantyhose here where I covered this part with one pantyhose and this one with the other pantyhose with one leg. This is one leg and this is a separate leg, and there's a seam here that I just tied a piece of ribbon around to cover up. And on the back of my leggings, my blue leggings, I stitched 2 little pieces of ribbon basically to act as belt loops. So I can hook this into those 2 ribbons so it doesn't slide around my body, and then I just tie it around my front. So it stays on really well. It does have a little bit of like natural movement when I do walk around, so that's really cool. And the last part of this costume are just my trusty boots. I've had these forever. I probably need new ones, but they're worn in and they work just fine for the character. So that is everything that makes up my Jester Lavorre 1.0 cosplay. I definitely want to make more costumes for Jester. She is super fun to wear. I had a really good time. Oh my god. I need to show you the makeup that I was wearing. So when I made this costume, I knew I was wearing it to Renfest, so that's one of the reasons that I decided to do the blue top, so that I wouldn't get stuff ruined while I was walking around and sweating. I live in South Texas. It's hot as heck outside right now. I knew I was going to be sweating, so I was trying to figure out ways that I could wear this costume comfortably all day without having to worry about it. I wasn't going to be in a convention. There wasn't going to be air conditioning. There's not bathrooms to touch up your makeup in. So this makeup was the saving grace for this costume. It was amazing. It held up perfectly the entire day. I was outside in long sleeves, leggings, and then a costume over it in October in Texas, and my makeup didn't move. And that's this right here, the NYX Vivid Brights, and it's like a cream eyeshadow. And this whole pot cost me $10. So it was kind of expensive, but it is amazing. And basically what I did, I assume normally you'd like rub your finger in it and put it on your eyelids, but I just used a brush, a pretty stiff like foundation brush, dabbed it in and kind of like swirled it around, and I used it to apply it kind of like a grease makeup, and it dries down to a matte finish. You can do contour and blush on top of it without any issues, and it works amazing. So if you do plan on wearing a Jester cosplay or any character where you're going to be outside in the heat, I highly, highly recommend using something like this, something more like an 24-hour, you know, cream eyeshadow, cream to matte eyeshadow, something that's meant to stay on all day. Other than that, that is all the things that I used to put this Jester cosplay together, and I hope I can be making some more videos on some more costumes for her and maybe some more in-depth how-tos on how I made certain parts of the costume. So if you'd like to see any of those, I guess you can subscribe and leave me a comment. Bye!